time for the homebrew developers or former home, now factory brew developers to tell their stories of building games with Jillian Haffner as moderator. Take it away, Jillian.
Well, hello everybody. So welcome back to another exciting episode of Homebrew Pinball here at Pintastic. As I like to say, the home of Homebrew, because our last show here, I think we had more Homebrew pinball machines than any convention in probably 5 years. And this year, as you know, I'll introduce the wonderful panelists. Well, I'll introduce you. Lynn has too many names for him to remember all of them, so he needs to introduce himself. Ryan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Just said you would.
Fine. This is Ryan McQuaid, but you can call him Brian because he loves that.
Not Randy.
Not Randy McQuaid. That was a great tag, by the way.
That was really
good. The developer of a creator, visionary, and perfectionist of Homebrew, Ryan created Sonic Spinball.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
That's all you got?
That's all I got.
All right.
I haven't done anything else ever.
Now, because Ryan did such a great job on his homebrew, that if you haven't seen it, it's probably the most professional looking homebrew pinball machine you're ever going to see. Lynn here has been doing homebrew pinball for a while. He had to outdo Ryan and brought 3 machines this year.
One of which works pretty well. The other one's
Quantity. This man has it. He's done, what, 9 games?
no.
11?
No.
Am I getting warmer or colder?
Colder, a little less.
Really?
I have 5 flipping whitewoods right now.
5 flipping whitewoods. 5 flipping whitewoods? Really?
Yep.
I can't even get one.
It's more than American Pinball.
Ooh! There was the bell.
He loves me. He loves me.
It was 7. It was 7, but I had to take some parts for some other ones.
5's a lot. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, you can't stop inspiration.
That's right. That's right.
But you're really specializing more in your VR platform now.
Yeah, the AR platform.
AR platform, right.
I'm a video game developer by trade for 16 years, developing games, PlayStation, mobile, all that stuff. So, I want to get video screens and interesting mechanics into it, and augmented reality is really the cool thing to do these days with everything. And there was a platform that tried to do some type of augmented stuff way back in 2000s, so I've taken that idea and I've enhanced it with my own stuff at this point with the augmented reality pinball system. And that's what is in the other room.
Any video games you worked on that our guests might have heard of?
I worked on a DS Tony Hawk game.
I actually have played that.
What, the motion one?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I was the lead developer on the motion one.
Very nice.
Yep, that was the first motion game for the Nintendo DS before it was incorporated. Well, the first one used in that manner, I think Kirby's Tilt and Tumble and a couple other things did that first, but it was the first one that really did it to that extent.
I'm trying to get Derek to turn up your 2 mics. He just shouldn't have to. You should just be able to turn it up.
Is this better?
Well, he was fine.
Can you
You
hear
don't
me
have to
now?
hold it. You just had to turn it up. But that's okay.
Should I do
Here at Pintastic, we do sound checks live.
I will not be backstage directing from the front of the house. I will not be backstage directing from the front of the house. Yes, I will. Yeah. You and I have that in common. We both worked in video games for a while.
I still work
and
in
now
video
you
games.
technically are a video game developer, I suppose.
Am I?
You have a video mode in your pinball machine, thus making you a video game
No, I
developer.
don't.
Yes, you do.
I do not.
Thank you.
Very intentionally did not put any video modes in my video game themed pinball machine because if you want a video mode for Sonic the Hedgehog, go play the game. Like there's
He created a game
slot
that has a
machine, is
video
that
of a
not-
hedgehog going across. The more you do things on the game, he created
Yeah.
video mode.
I suppose you're right.
it's not a video mode. All right, whatever. Slot machine. You're still playing pinball instead of taking a break from playing pinball to play a video game.
Well, the only video mode that I actually hate in a pinball machine is a pinball video mode in a pinball machine.
Awkward. Mark's up there.
Where is he?
Right there.
I didn't see him. Oh, sorry, Mark.
Have you played the
Hi.
Toy Story video mode? It's actually pretty fun.
No,
I was a skeptic, but I enjoyed it when I played it.
I'm sorry, getting that extra ball in Theater of Magic's video mode is fantastic.
Do you know the secret for Theater of Magic?
Yeah.
If you hold the left flipper when you hit start, your first mystery award will always be virtual pinball, but it won't be worth an extra ball.
Nope.
I don't know a lot of trivia, but now that I work for him, I have to spout out any trivia that does come to mind, or I get in trouble.
I'm sorry. I'm yeah.
I think we need
yeah.
to rename
We
this to
all-
the SAS
We all
panel.
enabled him, though, and I'm very...
We're the SAS company.
A SaaS company?
Yeah.
Software as a service?
We're working on that
That's
model.
what SaaS
please
means in the
no.
industry is software as a service
please
the
no.
last time I checked. All right, so back to Homebrew. Those of you who were here last year, you heard all about the creative process and all of that. We got feedback that said that people wanted to hear more about the nuts and bolts. That's hard to do in a session like this. It's hard to really give you guys a good vision of how someone built a pinball machine that's already built, how they did it from scratch, because very few people, except two, that happen to both be in this room, they don't take pictures and stream pinball while they're building them. Because that would be a stupid thing to do in the pinball industry, of course, right? Because someone could snipe your IP or snipe your ideas. But we have two people in the room that did exactly that. And so you can go watch that. That's there. We have that history already. The things that people wanted to hear, and you guys get to provide feedback this year, you talk to Dave, not to me, because I don't listen to you. He has to listen, okay? Partly because I have a bad memory, and anything you say goes in one ear and out the other. You guys want to see more of how you do these ramps, how we do these things. So Lynn has a bunch of pictures and things through his process, as well as some ramps and things.
Yeah, I brought a couple of ramp bucks that I made for the games that are out there right now. Different versions of it with various levels of completeness and goodness, I guess. And I have a bunch of pictures over the course of the 10, 11 years I've been doing this that I can show up on the screen. And if they deem worthy, I can load up SolidWorks and show you one of the games as well.
So we can actually get into some nuts and bolts here, but we have a community of people sitting in front of us. Is that what you guys want to see? You're the people sitting in the room. What do you guys want to talk about?
They seem into it.
Yeah.
I see 3 thumbs up and everybody else silent.
Everyone
Okay,
else,
there we
everyone
go.
else is here for the Q&A.
We're doing Q&A.
Yes.
I'm trying not to make you talk as little as possible.
What the heck am I here for if not to talk?
She said talk as little as possible, so you need to talk as much as possible.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I love
All right. What's the?
you. Lynn, take it away.
All right, what do I do? What am I
Well,
talking
we'll
about?
talk about the ramps.
Okay,
first. Let's
all
do
right.
that.
I'll bring up the ramp.
Pass them out. Pass them out to the class. We got some hands-on stuff for you guys today.
Yeah.
You get to see part of the actual process.
right.
They are heavy though, so don't hit each other with them.
I don't really want to hand them around. I'll leave
Oh,
them up in
my
the
bad.
front for people to come check afterwards because it takes a while to make these sometimes. But this buck right here, and for those of you who don't know what a buck is, it's a mold of some type used for vacuum forming. This buck right here is the buck that I created for Frozen right out in the game room right now.
So how does the vacuum forming process work with this right here? Show people who
All right.
don't know what's going on.
Now, if you can, as you can all see, this is not something a ball can go into. This is what's known as a reverse buck. All right, you have normal bucks where you would have cavities, where like what a ramp actually would be, and then you have bucks that are the reverse version of it. That when you form onto it from the top down, when you take it off, it becomes a ramp. All right, and so with this, I took my CAD drawing, and this one is actually kind of interesting because Frozen, it does have an entry that kind of goes down a little bit, but this side is not how high it is at the end. It's actually pulled down a little bit in the game, and I had to offset the length of this because of that. So this is, I believe, 1/4 of an inch longer this way than it normally would be. Like if you look at the CAD file, it doesn't line up, but when I pull it down and mount it, it does line up.
So another one of the thousands of little details that if you
Oh, yeah.
forget about it, the game doesn't fit together.
Exactly. And a couple of the 1,000 little details. These are the 2 ramp bucks that I made for one of the ramps in Haunted Cruise. It's the same ramp. This is the first one I made, which didn't work very well. This is the second one I made, which I ended up modifying 3 additional times, which is what all these other little pieces are that I have here with little minor cuts and things to make a ramp.
Try, fail, improve.
Yep.
All right.
Repeat.
So we got plywood here. We've got a little bit of hardwood here.
No hardwood. It's all plywood.
That's plywood.
Yeah, it's all plywood. Or it's
No,
whatever.
Bondoed it.
Yeah, it's whatever crap I had around the garage at the time.
All right. So junk wood.
Yeah, junk. That's really all you need.
You know where my junk wood pile is. This is what
And-
we do here.
I generally get 3 different sizes of wood. I have quarter inch wood, half-inch wood, and 3/4 inch wood, depending on the depths and things for the ramps. And so this one took me about 2 weeks to make because I smoothed this whole thing really, really nice, and it didn't work very well. So
how durable are these?
That's a trap.
Well, that's what I wanted to do with it after you said it was durable. But
oh, I wasn't supposed to bang on the table.
One job.
Yeah. And I failed. Yeah.
I'm used to that.
Yeah, so it's pretty durable. This is not the correct material people usually use for ramps. They usually use, I believe, with 3/16 inch or something like that.
Well, the correct material, as you stated earlier, is whatever you have lying around.
Well, no, for ramps. I actually had to buy this plastic. I spent money on
Ooh,
my
fancy.
pocket. Yeah. Yeah, this is PETG. However, this is only 0.09 inches thick, so it's really thin. So when you have really deep ramps, like the Tail of the Dragon ramp that I have in there, it had a very deep pull, so there's some parts of it that are very, very flimsy on the edges, which if I use the proper material, it wouldn't be as flimsy and be a little stronger. But for the purpose of prototyping, it works perfectly fine, and it saves like $100 in material.
MDF?
Yeah, that's MDF. So the first ramps I made were plywood, and it takes an awful lot of sanding to make it smooth, or somewhat smooth. And I saw people online and YouTube say, oh, use MDF, it's already kind of smooth. So that's what I did with most of the other bucks that I'm doing now. And it makes things nice and smooth, but MDF crumbles a lot, so you need to be careful on the edges where pieces meet and such. But yeah, and MDF has a much nicer finish, generally speaking.
CNC routed?
Yes, CNC.
Okay, so who has a CNC router at their house? Show of hands. You do not. Okay, so we got you and one other. Hey, are you doing a homebrew yet? A what? Okay. We'll not let you talk about that at all, okay?
Who has a
I have a
vacuum forming
V-pin
machine
too.
at their house?
Hey,
I built one.
I'll say this. A V-pin, it's the one pin to have if you can only have one. But actually, I'm starting to change that because the P3 would be the one pin I'd want if I only could have one.
I have a question.
So,
Moved up here. To be the official question of position here. So you say some of the ramps didn't work out. So can you talk a little bit about how far you can get with CAD versus what you had to just sort of try and feel your way through? And does that mean you'll do better CAD next time and have fewer tries?
It goes 100% of the way with CAD. I don't make these things without making them in CAD first, even if the CAD ends up being slightly wrong. So with these 2 ramps, as I explained, they're ever so slightly different, right? This one, hold this please. This one has a long neck, like this part here, of 1 1/4 inches wide. This one is 1/16 inch wider than that, and it makes all the difference. Just 1/16. This one, when the ball kind of came up, it would rattle so much it would lose all its power and fall right down. Also, the curvature of this ramp, can hold that there, this kind of S curvature. Thank you, thank you, Vanna.
You're welcome.
Yeah. This curvature is actually a little too much, and the ball, as you might think, it'll make the ball kind of go up and over really nicely. This actually kills a lot of the speed as well.
and I love that you said an 1/8 of an inch, or was it 16th?
It was 1/16 of an inch.
A 1/16 of an inch. Now,
Yep.
when you look at a playfield and you think of 1/16 of an inch on this shot and 1/16 of an inch on another shot, and you take another 1/16 of an inch off another shot, and can I make this? I'm going to do it anyways. And if you did that, Houdini would have been a great game, because it would have one less shot. But
No one's gonna laugh harder than us about that. So
I don't want to plug American too much during this seminar, but
yes, you do.
all right, maybe I do. Depends what your next game is. What's your next game?
Good.
Great. The thing
Will
I
be
wanted to
great.
just loop back at, if you do have questions, go over there to that mic and wait to be recognized next time. Dave. I wanted to talk about access to equipment. Who here has a welder in their house? Put your goddamn hand down. Okay, you, same guy. All right, well, you're in trouble. Who here knows how to computer program? And most of you know how to use a screwdriver and some general tools. So most of you have the ability to build your own homebrew machine. But for those of you who do not have, this is not sponsored by any makerspace whatsoever, if you do not have this equipment, you need to find a local makerspace. Who lives in the southern New Hampshire area? Anyone? Okay. You guys, Make It Labs in Nashua. I'm not biased. I was the founder. Not biased at all. $40 a month. You can get a membership there. And we have a 5x10 CNC router, a complete wood shop, a welding shop, an auto shop. You name it, it's got it. $40 a month. All right? Pack in, pack out. Worcester. What's the name of the makerspace in Worcester that you were at? Technicopia. If you're up even in northern New Hampshire, you've got Port City up in, Portsmouth, thank you. You've got Lowell, you've got, of course, Artisans Asylum in Boston. All of these places have classes for their stuff and everything, and are a community of people that are autistic geeks. Is that what I want to say? What? Yeah. So it's a great community to get tapped into, and you'll find people that will often want to pick up your project and help you with it. I suggest carry a hammer if you don't want them to. They'll get the hint really quick. But do not be limited by your access to tools and technology, because it's out there.
Absolutely.
And also, there are people in this pinball community that if you're really nice to, will probably help you along the way.
Yup. I owe one forward. Mark helped me out. I wouldn't have made my game without him. So if you don't have... oh, yeah. By the way, Mark is in the audience this year.
Stand up, Mark. Come on. Go ahead. We know how much you hate this, so I love doing it too.
He does hate being called out. But he is now a full-blown professional, and I will hopefully be up there in the audience with him next year, and one of you will be down here instead of me. So if it takes many... I'm not moderating anything ever. You don't want me doing that. Ask him. Yeah, absolutely. Find other people that will help you get access to the tools you need or skills you need. If you don't have the skills, if you're not a programmer, I only saw like 10 hands when you said, can you computer program? The ones who did raise their hands, go talk to them. They can help program your game. Some of them don't know how to use a CNC machine, but they would love to program a game. And like, just team up, find people, get access to the tools. It is out there. You don't have to buy all these big fancy robots.
Well, you don't?
You don't, but you can. That's fine.
The other
You
thing
just need to find a Mark who can bring you there, and then spend 12 hours trying to cut a playfield on a broken CNC machine, and then go back the next day without you. That is a true story.
Make It Labs CNC machine's not broken.
It's not anymore, but it was the day we went down.
No, the My Makerspace is not broken. It's brand new.
You don't. Never mind.
Brand new.
So, yeah, that's the point.
Brand
You don't
new
have to do it
for
alone. You
people
don't have to
sometimes.
need to
You don't have to-
know everything. You don't. If this scares you, that's okay.
Get someone else to help you.
Yep.
Or learn. This is something that looks really complicated, but you can try and fail and try and fail, and then your third time probably will work, or at least get you started.
These were not my first. I've made a bunch in the past, and then I put paper mache over it to see if the things would work. And
Great advice.
and that's, I mean, you don't need a vacuum forming or a CNC or anything. You can take just scrap pieces of 2x4 and whatnot if you just need like a straight ramp or like a curved ramp and paper mache around it, and you'll get something that's good enough.
Or if you have a 3D printer, you can 3D print your ramps. You don't even have to do vacuum forming.
I was going to do a raise of hands on 3D printer.
Yep. How
3D
many people
printers.
here have access to a 3D printer? Or a person who has access to a 3D printer that you can buy a beer for? There you go. Cider. There you go. I'll print you something for a Down East. Absolutely.
The pineapple one, though.
Oh yeah, the pineapple
you want
one's good.
pineapple.
I had it at Chili's the other night. So, absolutely. So what else? We got nuts and bolts, ramps. Want to do questions or?
No.
How about wire forms? All right, wire forms
Those are fun.
are actually. I used 2 hand pliers to make my wire forms. I bent them around a dowel to make the entrance nice and round, but there was nothing fancy involved there. I don't have a wire bending machine. I don't have access to a wire bending machine, although I really want to. Buy me one. But I just used a couple pairs of pliers, and I drew out what I wanted on a piece of cardboard. I would bend it by hand and match it up to the cardboard. Nope, need to bend it a little more. Nope, need to bend it a little more, and perfect. And eventually, I was able to put all those together. I bought a spot welder, learned to use it from YouTube University. It took me an afternoon of ruining some stainless steel because someone told me to get stainless steel, and that was not the right answer, but I did it anyway. No. So I got good enough that I could spot weld stainless steel, throw it against the wall, and it wouldn't break. That's what I was doing all day. I was welding, throwing it against the wall, and trying to break it until I failed.
And where did you buy that spot welder?
Harbor Freight.
I know that. I'm asking you. And how much did you pay for the shitty Harbor Freight?
Like $80?
$80. Yep. Now, here's the thing. This guy on YouTube who like built a spot welder out of like a microwave transformer.
That seems dangerous. I approve.
Yeah, but he's making this tool, and I'm sitting here watching it the whole time going, wait, Squid bought one of these for like less than $100 at Harbor Freight.
Goes on sale all the time.
Yeah.
Normally like 120?
But still, that's money. You can just take 2 wires plugged right into your wall and tap.
Medical bills are also expensive. Have you met this country?
Well, no, because if something goes wrong, all he has to do is make sure he collapses like this, and he can restart his heart. It's fine.
Don't do that.
American Pinball does not endorse using car batteries as spot welding.
We are professionals. Do not attempt this at home. So,
I got you, boss.
now something interesting, Mark. Your wireform ramps. I should be talking to a microphone. I'm sorry, Mark. Your wireform ramps, if I remember correctly, you had a version that you actually just 3D printed plastic holders to do. And I thought it was fantastic at the time because
I did the same
ball
thing.
would go down and it would kind of like wave a little bit as they went down. And I thought it was a great effect for Metroid. But you know, you can get creative with some of this stuff.
My wireform ramps on Haunted Cruise and Frozen doesn't have it anymore. On a couple of the other tables you guys don't know about, they're all 8-gauge copper grounding wire that I bent around, and then I can easily braze and solder them together. And once you make
good idea.
And once you solder them all together, it's quite strong. I mean, you can't throw it against the wall necessarily, but it's still very strong for what a pinball needs to do.
Now, last year, November, when we were here, Haunted Cruise had a cardboard ramp taped up with...
Haunted Cruise had a lot of problems last time we were here.
No, I'm not even saying this
I
was
liked
a
the
problem.
cardboard ramp.
This was a
Cardboard ramps work.
Which
that
I
he put
decided not to bring this time.
Black gaff tape on it, if I remember correctly.
So-
it was black
so
gaffer's tape. And I was
No,
like...
it wasn't black gaffer's tape.
What was it?
So Haunted Cruise's ramps were made out of paper from Michael's, painter's tape, a couple pieces of metal in there for stability, a spray paint, some more metal, some more painter's tape, more spray paint, and probably more paper or tape.
And it worked for like 2 days.
Yeah, well, not, but yeah.
But the point is you're trying to get something flipping. It's a prototype. It doesn't need to
Yeah,
be
you can do
perfect.
whatever you
And
need
for
to get it going.
For us perfectionists out there, this is hard for us to go, well, this isn't done, and then want to show it to people because it opens you up for criticism, right? Well, why didn't you do this way? And why didn't you do this way?
Because
why
I'm not
didn't you
done.
do it that way? Because I'm not done.
Because I'm not done.
And if you want to do it, go ahead.
I actually streamed the first prototype ever of the Sonic Loop-de-Loop ramp, and it was made out of one strip of 1-inch steel and exclusively painter's tape, like an entire roll of painter's tape. And it almost killed me, and it was hilarious, but it worked. And so I'm like, okay, if I can make a working loop-de-loop ramp out of one piece of strip of steel and a bunch of tape, then I can do it easily using the right materials later on. So I knew I wasn't wasting my time, and it was actually really funny to listen to me scream when it went off and almost killed me.
And it makes perfect sense when you think about it, right? Why would you want to make it out of metal? You're going to try to adjust this. You're going to try to move this. You're prototyping.
Yeah,
right?
and any time you're trying to figure out and feel out and see if something's going to work or not, if you just run right to the finished product, you're going to waste a lot of time with either molds or clamps or cutting metal, and your hand's not going to be happy with you.
I have a lot of cuts.
Yeah, my next tool is going to be a CNC plasma cutter. I'm looking for one this summer. My hand is not happy with me cutting all the rails. But Yeah, just use whatever material you have, paper, strips of metal, like the cheap whatever you get at Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever your preference is. Even the supermarket, cut a piece of plastic, Tupperware or something, and then that can be what you need.
Yep.
And just get it working, and then you can figure out, okay, these are the dimensions, this is how the holes are, this is what it needs to be, and you can make it a little more formal.
I know a lot of us see a lot of old pinball machines, like, we're playing games that are 40 and 50 years old, and we see them, they're broken, they're beat up, and it makes us feel like pinball machines will be a lot more fragile than they are. But the truth is that only happens over decades and decades of abuse. If you went into the vendor hall and played one of their Pinbox 3000s in there, I guarantee you one of those tiny little ramps they made out of paper could stand up to a real pinball for at least like a couple hours. Mm-hmm. It's surprising how little you actually need to get your idea in front of you and working. The barrier isn't nearly as big as everyone thinks it is, and you don't even need code. Just any 2 flippers that will work whenever you hit a button is enough to have fun.
You don't even need 2 flippers. If you have your hand, you can throw and see that things kind of work, and then you can figure out where
that's
it
true.
is. Controlling hardware can be very, very expensive.
Can be. It doesn't have to be anymore.
It doesn't have to be anymore, but it can be. I think I started off with the P-Rock a long time ago, and that whole system was like $800 to just get the boards and things for that. And you can find things a lot cheaper now, but it's a big level of entry to get into some of these things. Yeah. But you don't need it if you just want to see, hey, will the ball go around here? Where will the targets make the ball bounce and things? And you don't even need targets for figuring out if targets are going to bounce. You can just put strips of little wrapped rubber things, and that'll bounce roughly where you want to go. You can get the angles right. Then you can spend the $10, $15, $20, whatever it is for targets.
So this is a question I actually don't. I know your answer because I own a machine that you restored, so I know how your process is. How do you clear coat your playfields?
I put it on 2 horses outside in front of my garage, and I spray. I wait a day, I spray. I wait a day, I sand, and then I do that, I don't know, maybe a dozen or 2 dozen times, and I waste way too much money on it because I'm never satisfied.
How am I not surprised?
Yeah, I do it twice.
Yeah, I do it more. I used to use DuPont Clear Coat for when I do restoration things, but you can't really find the stuff I used to use anymore because they changed all their branding and things. I know Chuck uses some Clear Coat that I want to start using, but that stuff is really expensive and it's not easily accessible, so run to the hardware store, get whatever they have. Water-based, don't use oil-based. Frozen used oil-based by accident, and it screwed everything up. Water slide decals and oil-based do not go good together. When that happened, I was very disheartened, but I said, screw it, I don't have time to make another playfield right now.
Yeah.
I use Spray Max 2K, which is automotive clear coat in a can. Yeah. And I usually use around 4 to 5 cans per playfield, but I'm not as much of a perfectionist as these two. I'll rather spend 3 hours with a buffer to make a mirror than get it perfect like they do.
Yeah, I tend to wet sand after each couple coats or some such. Yeah.
And so this is something that, in the pinball industry, all the manufacturers, everybody gets criticized about playfield dimpling.
Not us.
Thank you.
I could say something really cruel right now, but I'm going to refrain because I'm being recorded. At any rate, all the manufacturers have always had problems with playfield dimpling. But what do you expect? Even then.
Yes, they did.
Oh, yes, they did.
Yes, they
oh
did.
my God. Come to my house and look at my Addams family. It's dimpled. It's 90s.
Do you want to come up here? Do you want to do some?
91, just to be specific.
got
91.
some stuff to
80s
say.
technology. Same thing. At any rate.
The official question thing is right there.
To the microphone first. My point was, if let's say the machine has 2,000 plays on it, I don't know how anybody in here would feel, but if someone started throwing metal ball bearings at you, 2,000 of them, I think we'd all have some dimples and bruises. So, when you are the one buffing that playfield, do you care if it happens?
No.
I mean, that it's a ball bearing that's being shot around. Yeah. Of course it's going to do damage.
Yeah, I built my game to get destroyed.
Yeah, and if you're stupid enough to put too strong of coils on your flippers, you're going to do even more damage.
I know that sounds weird, but my game is here to be enjoyed by everyone. Everyone's like, oh, but that's your baby. I'm like, yeah, but shake it, destroy it, tilt it.
We made these games once. We can make them again.
Exactly. I made it from nothing, So if it fell off a truck, I could make it again. It's not nothing you can do to that game I can't fix. Nothing.
So hopefully
So-
this gentleman up here who's going to ask a question has something to say about playfield dimpling so that we can shoot 6,000 ball bearings at you and see how you do.
We could do any more questions if you guys
You're
want
on.
to.
You're on.
John Greatwich from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada.
Welcome.
Welcome.
So,
I've
all
been
the,
there.
All the years I've been doing new play fields, and like I keep telling people that want to get into it, is like you can go to Home Depot or somewhere else for water-based Varathane clear coat. I've used it for like 10 years. Doesn't matter what automotive clear coat you want to use on top of it. There's no problems whatsoever. I've never had problems like with Mirko or anyone else where there's pooling with play fields with whatever I do. Like Varathane, to seal the wood is like the best thing. Like 2 coats of Varathane. I filter it, spray it, never had a problem. The clear coat guys, whatever brand of automotive they've used, never had a problem with pooling or ink the laminating off the play fields or anything.
This is going to turn into a whole nother seminar if we
no,
don't
no,
if we don't reel in the
We'll
clear
reel it
coat.
in, don't worry about it.
So just the gist is like I keep going on telling people it's not the UV ink that's the problem, it's the process, whoever's doing it. So if you got good wood, good clear coat, there's absolutely no process, like no problems to it. Like getting back to like even Clay in the days, he goes, you got to sand between each layer of clear coat. Never had to sand any time using water-based clear Varathane. It's like you could apply it next day, 2 weeks, a month from now, no problems whatsoever. So I can't understand how they got serious problems. It's like moisture in the plywood that's giving them problems.
Well, there's a bunch of seminars tomorrow that you can ask that question at. Find out what they have to say. If all of this conversation is scaring you into not wanting to do it, I don't know how to clear coat, and even the professionals can't seem to get it right. You don't have to clear coat your game. It's a homebrew.
Yeah,
You can do whatever you want.
When you're developing your game, don't clear coat the playfield. You're gonna be drilling holes in the damn thing every 2 seconds. So
You don't even have to
clear coat
open
it.
a can of this stuff.
Yeah.
You just get a piece of wood and drill into it, and you have a game.
So I got some pictures in here I can show eventually of the very first version of Haunted Cruise from 10 years ago, with the shittiest plywood I could find, and certainly not clear coated.
Now last year we talked about quality of plywood and all of that.
Good luck finding plywood in box stores right now. I almost didn't have 3 games because I couldn't find plywood.
I just call Mark anytime I need
I
wood.
got a guy.
Probably won't work anymore,
I got a
but
guy.
it's worked
Yeah,
up till
I
now.
need to know.
I'll
I
hook
did
you
that
up.
in plywood
I'll
prices
hook-
like skyrocketed
I'll
too.
hook you up.
That was intentional.
I got a guy.
Good.
What did you just say? I missed it.
Absolutely nothing. Move
Good,
on.
because Lynn and I were talking. I wasn't paying attention.
I made a wood joke.
I'll watch it later.
Keep going.
What are you, a beaver?
I'm not answering
Okay.
that. Keep going. Next question.
Good choice.
When you guys are starting from like a blank canvas, like you have no idea what you're doing with the playfield yet, do any of you design out and kind of prototype your stuff in VPX?
Yep, Sonic Spinball was 100% made in VPX before I ever started going on anything to do with physical. I had the whole game designed out, most of the rules written, and some actual real code finished before I even started building, and that is something I still do. It's mostly just for my own creative process, trying to like get my ideas out so I can see them. But VPX is a wonderful free tool. Just most people think it's just a video game, visual pinball, and that's mostly because it's used in virtual cabinets to emulate existing games. But a lot of people don't know it's a full editor. You can design, place, and prototype virtually without spending any money in this free open source program that's been around since the 90s. So they've been working on emulating real pinball physics for 30 years now.
And they failed for 30 years, but I'll get to that in a minute.
They're doing pretty well.
It's pretty good.
They take into account ball spin, ricochets. There are things
Try to
that
backhand something you can actually backhand in real life. Good luck. No,
it has some flaws, but it's free.
Game engines are hard.
What? Yeah.
Just saying.
So
He's a video game developer. He's a perfectionist.
No, so speaking of video games, has anyone ever played a game on PlayStation 3 called Pinballistic? It's a multiplayer pinball game. All right, I was one of the engineers on that. I wrote the pinball engine on that. We actually designed all those tables in Visual Pinball, and I wrote an exporter that would export all the physics objects for PlayStation 3 and would cross-compile the VB script into Lua script.
Cool.
So it was all done in that. And it does great, but as I was kind of playing...
Can you make me Cosmic Lady for the PlayStation 3?
No.
Damn it.
I can do it for the PlayStation 4. I have a PlayStation 4 version.
Okay.
VPX is Lua?
No, it's Visual Basic. But I created a cross compiler that converted.
So you could do Lua.
Yeah, that was a pain in the ass.
okay.
This was before Microsoft stuff was open
Think
source.
about this
Anyway,
before you ask nerds questions.
I know. Well, it's funny, how much of that programming is directly convertible or usable on the actual?
It
Okay.
depends on what engine you use.
Okay.
But there is so if you're using, in my case, I use the Mission Pinball framework, which is I highly recommend it. You basically have a couple options, like Skeleton Game or Mission Pinball, or write your own. But I would recommend starting with either of those. But there is a bridge that will allow Mission Pinball to talk to Visual Pinball, which means you can start coding and playing in Visual Pinball with your actual pinball code. So it's fully exportable. It took me an hour and a half to port all of my code and modes to the real game once it was done. So you can get started on your code and on your rules and on all your light shows and music and everything before you even pick up a screwdriver.
I don't use Mission Pinball or anything like that. All my stuff is custom, C# and C++ and things. But
Programmer.
But if you want to use like the Microsoft libraries and such, you can take whatever you've written in Visual Pinball and just use that code in your Microsoft libraries and whatever editor you're using for that, Visual Studio or whatnot. It will take a lot more heavy lifting to get to the point to use hardware if you want to use Mission Pinball, or if you're writing your own like kernel and things like I did. It'll take a while, but there are plenty of different paths to do it. It's all how you want to do it.
So one of the things that Ryan has said many times in the past is his mission to get a good game that he wanted to finally make a whitewood out of was to have a game that was fun to flip. And so he took his...
Yeah, fun to flip with no other rules, no music, no scoring, no anything. If it's fun to flip with nothing else, then you're going to have a good game at the end.
And I can look around the room and see about half a dozen people that Ryan tapped to, hey, here are all my VPX files. This is how you load them onto your computer so they'll actually work. And play this and tell me what you think. And so the first time that I actually played the physical machine up at your house, I felt kind of comfortable with it. Like you knew it was going to be a fun flipping game. And you should keep saying that.
Good to know. Thank
part
you.
of your process was,
Yep, it's fun to be able to email your homebrew to somebody and be like, what do you think of this?
And I kind of wish I had a virtual cab. I need to talk to them about that while we're here.
What was that? Do you offer your Sonic Spinball VPX files?
There is a demo, yes.
Yep.
It's up on VP forums. It's an older version, but it is out there. I was never able to finish like a full code export or anything, but there's a little demo that I made for my friends at a party just to be like, what do you think of this basic rule loop? And that was all written in the Visual Pinball script instead of the real code in Mission Pinball. But that is available free for download out there.
Because not all of us have a virtual pinball coffee table like some.
Yeah, but you can run this just on any computer. You don't have to have a virtual machine you can just play it on the computer.
Now, Lynn, if I remember correctly, and this is now 3 years ago, before COVID, wasn't Frozen? Didn't you do Frozen in Unity?
Yeah. So all my stuff is written in Unity now.
Okay.
So yeah, all the games, Frozen, Haunted Cruise, Tail of the Dragon, everything else I do is all written in Unity, just so I have that full game engine background in there, so I don't have to worry about how do I throw a polygon on the screen, how do I texture it, where do CG shaders come from, how do I play music? Oh, that's all taken care of. So all I had to do was create a little C# glue code to talk to a C object to control the thing. And all game code is in and it makes life a lot easier. When doing light shows, it's night and day. You can ask me, I can show you like all the debug stuff I have in those games. I literally have a texture that I just sample off of where the lights are. And so I can do anything I want, and then it just blends down to a texture, and I can pull whatever lights.
And that's very different from what you did.
Oh yeah, completely different.
And yours and Mark's games were basically built on the same platform, correct?
Yeah, definitely. They were cut from the same tree. They're very similar. I love telling that story.
Playfields were from
Why'd you make?
wood, right?
They're from
No,
they were
they're
from the
Can't be
same
from the
playfield.
same tree.
Yeah, the two playfields were from the same tree. They were cut from the same tree.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They were some of the same batch from the same hardware store. Mark, at the party that I had that visual. I'm not making him stand up again. We already did that once. Sorry, Mark. So I actually had a party for a Twilight Zone restoration that I did when, and that was when I first showed all my friends this little demo on my coffee table, which is my visual pinball machine. And I just tell people, what do you think? And Mark actually brought me a chunk of wood to that party and said, here you go, you're ready, start cutting. And you were all out of excuses. And then later told me, yep, this is one that I bought when I went and bought my wood for Metroid, and I didn't use it yet. So yeah, the original, and I think the next one too, this one was also from the same batch. Yeah, so Metroid and Sonic were cut from the same tree. They were clear coated at the same time. They were cut at the same time. Even if you're working on your own game, you can still find help from other homebrewers working on their own projects. We work very closely together, and look where it got both of us. So.
Now, one of the things I want to promote, again, and we've talked about this, is these sessions. We get an hour. I think we may have 15 minutes left, 20 actually. So we're gonna start going hardcore into some questions. Make sure we get everybody done. But the great time to meet up with the homebrew community and to find a spot in the bar or something and talk about after the seminar and really, exchange contact information and try to be part of this homebrew community. So that you can sit up here and I can ask you stupid questions and embarrass you in the audience in future years. There's only so long they're going to take my abuse, so I need new suckers.
How many people here are thinking about building their own game? Versus, as opposed to just thinking this is interesting. So it's like 10 people, I think.
I saw a hand in the back
1,
over
2.
here.
I know you're very reluctant, but just shoot. If you even had a little bit of a thought of joining a team, of building your own game, of helping someone build a game.
What do you think?
All right, half the people in this room. Don't steal their ideas.
RPG style. Okay, well that you talk to Mark. Just so you know, don't make MMO pinball machines. It's a bad idea.
But there are ways to make RPGs work.
Anybody else got some different ideas, different concepts that they're wanting to do? Anything fantastic? Anything you want to share? Go ahead.
I just want to talk about plywood. So you can go to Home Depot over these years and get a panel of Baltic birch to produce your own individual playfield. But there's actually, you can search out thin, hard maple veneer Baltic birch plywood that's out there from suppliers. And that's what I was doing for years. So if you want something that's not like pinball quality plywood, but the next step down, that would be what you want to go for, is Baltic birch with a hard maple veneer on both sides.
So what I use for my homebrews is the maple plywood from Lowe's, and that used to be okay 7-ply. You need to be careful because it's often said, hey, this is 7-ply, but there's actually just 5-ply or 3-ply with 2 veneers. So one of the things, I almost didn't have Tail of the Dragon done because I couldn't find the plywood I needed because of COVID and everything. And every time I would go to a store, they would have the 3-ply instead of the 7-ply that it's supposed to be, or they wouldn't have any. And I had the same problem with wood for the cabinet. I use similar maple 3/4 inch for the cabinet, and I had to drive all the way to Hartford, Connecticut to get a couple sheets. And I destroyed most of them because the CNC machine decided to do its own thing, but I had just enough left to make what I needed.
I'm glad you got it done. I'm excited to play it. If you haven't played Lynn's games yet, there are 3 of them in the free play room over on the right wall. You got Frozen, you got Haunted Mansion, Haunted Cruise. And what's the name of the last one?
The other one is Tail of the Dragon, based
Tail
off
of the Dragon.
Tennessee Road for motorcycle people. That one, I mean, you can flip it and it dings. It doesn't do too much. I just got it here, just barely. And I'm still writing the code in my hotel room and updating it every day.
But if it's fun with no rules,
exactly, that's the point.
You know you have a good game.
Yep.
Oh, God.
Don't you love when I ask you guys questions?
Let's go for it.
All right, so we all know. Why don't you share with us why you guys don't use the same kind of wood play fields that Stern's using for the pin for your prototype?
What is
So
it?
What
I
are they
think I
using?
think what the question
You know,
is,
what-
I will field this one.
Go ahead.
I
Ryan knows the answer.
I think what the question is why would you not prototype on MDF, because that's what Stern is using currently for their play fields in their pin versions, their home versions of their games. Is that the question? Did I summarize that one correctly?
My answer is because I get water on my playfields all the time.
Yeah, that was swell like crazy.
Just one drop of sweat hits a piece of MDF and it's ruined.
So this is where I put my official staff badge on for a second and don't actually side with anything here. I brought up the point about well, Todd just left. We streamed one of the machines, we lifted it up and I saw it was MDF and I went, oh yeah, well, that's nice. I'm worried about this. And I'm not worried about this today. I'm worried about this 5 years from now. MDF will soak up moisture and these things are going to start buckling and pucking. I'm sure that Stern did extensive testing on it. It is a home pin. It's not an industrial pin. These are made to be in homes. I advise anyone who is buying one of these and you're thinking of putting it in your basement, if you do not have a dehumidifier within 20 feet of it, do not expect it to last long. It is $3,000, $4,000 less than its counterpart for a reason. I'm not saying that I think these things are going to fall apart next week. I don't think any of us think that. I just think the lifespan is not the same as a industrial pinball machine.
Then again, like
and
we
that's why
said,
it's value. Why
again-
wouldn't you use it in this case?
I would
well,
use it. If it's all I had, I would use it.
Yeah,
If it's all you had, you
absolutely.
would use it. But if you
If
need
it's
to
all
put
you
a
can
screw
afford
in and take it
and
out
it's all you
move
can
it
Yeah,
get,
no, they-
away.
use it.
You got a
It crumbles.
Bondo.
It absolutely crumbles if you try to take screws
Take
and move it
screws
around.
in
Yeah,
and out.
it'll
It's
absolutely
sawdust.
crumble.
It's
Yeah, it
condensed
is.
sawdust.
Yeah,
So-
it's good if you throw a schematic or a piece of paper on it and just glue things on it and move stuff around. That's fine. Like one of the first things I did with Frozen was I got a 20 by 30 sheet of a foam core and I was just gluing things around. I mean, it doesn't matter what you use for your first thing, but if you want it to be durable by any stretch of the imagination, then MDF, it just won't hold those screws.
And one more defense of Stern, and by the way, I do not own a Stern pinball machine, so you can take whatever you want from that. I will say that the construction that Stern did on the home pins, there is not a single post screwed into that
it's all
MDF.
T-nut?
There are T-nuts
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
back
yeah.
side, so everything is a machine post that's put in and threaded.
Yeah.
So I believe they must have done some decent testing to be able to put it out in the marketplace.
Think
but
you're getting off
it is not
topic.
an industrial machine.
I think we're getting off topic.
Yeah, we are.
We're
off
talking
topic.
about non-industrial machines. That's
Yeah,
what we're
we
talking
are.
about.
But I think.
So
to say
here's
this
here's
here,
something.
I would
I'm gonna shock the world, especially my boss. My first place field was MDF.
And how did it hold up?
It didn't because I never intended it to.
Okay.
I cut a piece of MDF on the CNC router because it's cheap and throwaway, and I needed to know if the CNC router was going to produce what I expected it to. So I cut one out of MDF, test fit all my mechanisms, said, all right, that's good. And then I cut the correct wood because I only had one sheet. So then later on, I used that MDF playfield to test my playfield's fit in the cabinet while it was on the rotisserie. So I used it as a tool. It is useful in certain situations. Is it going to be the one I bring to the show and hope and expect it to stand up to the abuse? No. But is there a use for it somewhere in the process? Absolutely.
But would it stand up to? But would it stand up to 2,000 plays?
No, and it didn't even get
No, I
one
think- I
play,
think it
so
will. No,
that's
I
fine.
think
It,
MDF
it,
play
could,
field
it depends on
it's
what you
clickbait.
have in
Yeah.
there and where the posts are placed and how strong flippers and things
But-
are.
Couple
It-
thousand
Yeah,
plays.
that's a subject for your Stern panel. Are we doing one of those? Where's Mike? Are we doing a Stern panel?
No, he left.
He left? Ugh.
Mike Grant jumped out of here 10 minutes ago.
Love if you thought I wouldn't notice that. He'd-
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Lynn, do you want to?
Unless we have any more questions.
I think there's one
Oh,
more
we got
question.
somebody else. up
You're
here.
still there. All right. Got another one? No more wood, no more clear coat.
So we're into plywood.
Nope.
So just so people for homebrew,
Okay.
like we're in Massachusetts, so I'm in Canada. So the company's called Robert Burry is a wholesaler of 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch Baltic birch hard maple plywood. So like in my area, they bring it in by the skids for the university to make cabinets, and I jump aboard and buy whatever the hell I want. So like down here in Massachusetts, maybe if people want to do something, they can reach out and see the quality plywood that's void-free. That's hard maple veneer. It's very thin, but it's great for building pinball machines or play fields out of.
All right, great. There's a source for you. Write it down. All right, slides.
Who knows what this is?
A playfield.
A drawing of what? Anyone? Yeah, pinball machine. This is the very first drawing I ever made of Haunted Cruise over 10 years ago. This is where it all started. So if you have a sheet of paper, you can design a pinball machine. And let's see.
You fold it up into a little airplane and you throw it at my head.
This is the very first whitewood I made of Haunted Cruise.
That looks nothing like Haunted Cruise.
But there's a lot that's the same in this that is currently in Haunted Cruise. These jets are in the same spot. This loop around is in the same spot. This upper table and this ramp, relatively the same spot. Things have moved around a bit to make it all work out well, but this is some of the cheapest plywood I could buy at the time. And that's all it took. These flippers were driven, I think, by a little controller board I made at the time. But this is all you need. And the cabinet it's a supersonic cabinet. You don't need like a fancy cabinet. You can use a couple of horses, like wood horses, and just have it kind of hanging on the wood horses. I do that a lot for a lot of the things.
Yeah, Sonic's cabinet was originally supposed to be an Earthshaker restoration and never became one because the owner decided to restore the original. So I just bought it cheaply on the internet. Oh, there's a cabinet. Done.
There you go. There's the bottom of it. Just old parts that I had floating around. I think these flipper mechs and the jets and slingshots came from a blackjack table, belly blackjack, and the power supply, same thing. And it was all just directly driven. From what I remember now, the flippers just went right power, and so you hold it, it did it. And that's all you needed to really make it work. And I was able to see, oh, this works great, or this doesn't play well. On top of that, this metal siding over here, it's just little strips of aluminum that I got from Home Depot. So it doesn't take a lot. I think this whole thing was maybe $40 to make with getting parts. Now, mind you, plywood now is what, $2,000 to get a sheet or something. But you get the cheapest stuff you can find.
I have a big 5x10 sheet of Baltic birch. With
oh, okay. So you can talk to her and you can get some Baltic birch. All these posts and flippers that you assimilated from other games to start off with. You don't need to go crazy and get brand new stuff until later. Yeah. Yeah, there's a flea market. You can get there's like dozens and dozens of flippers and everything over there right now, and you can just grab them and boom, you can be up and running.
I have not had time to go through the vendor hall yet. There was a person at TPF who sells flat pack cabinets.
John Manuelian is representing.
He's here, isn't he?
Yeah, same one that was just talking.
Oh.
He was asking some questions about
Okay, I've never met you. I guess I've met your business partner. Okay, that makes sense now. Wow. Hey, I wouldn't have been so. Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead, take the mic.
Sorry,
We'll
I
make
just
this a
want to
vendor
point out
meeting.
something. All right, let me point out something. John Graywich, I've known for
Derek, turn that
anyway,
mic up a little.
John started out redoing playfields for people. Sorcerer, Shuttle. We also did back glasses. Paragon. That's when we were proving stuff out 20 years ago that could be done on a flatbed inkjet printer. It's all UV ink. Before the whole industry went that way, okay? We were doing this 20 years ago when I was working with CPR. So John is still a great asset that you can have back glasses made. You could do your playfields. You could do anything you want. If you want to take that next step, so if Ryan wanted to take that next step and do everything done, you could contact John, and John would put it into his queue and help you. So John is a great asset to the community. It has been for a long time.
Well, one of the things that I was at Texas Pinball Fest, there was a vendor there that was selling essentially flat pack cabinets. Easy Pinball, is that the name of it? Yeah, that's. I know he was having some stuff shipped here because I was thinking of buying one, but I just never got my act together.
And that's what I'm promoting here.
Oh, okay. All right, so those cabinets are probably made out of good wood. That's just my guess.
California.
But those are Bally Williams style cases, correct? Cabinets, if I remember.
It's classic Stern. He's getting in the classic Bally the end of the year. Yeah. The only thing I wanted to bring up here is like,
if you mention another thing about quality of plywood, I'm
No,
shutting
no,
your
no.
mic off, my friend. I'm sorry. You seem like a nice guy, but corporate shilling, I need my kickback.
I'm getting into metalwork. So even back in their area.
Great. So we're going to sit and talk about 316 and 304
No,
stainless
but for
now?
metalwork is like, even in your area, if you find out a good source, like even in my area, they've made good side rails for pinball machines and other metalwork. So like, just don't think it's not available. You just reach out and try to work with somebody, and you can make quality stuff up.
Yeah, the thing I was going to say is, people who have access to CNC routers and things, I'm sure we could figure out how to put a cabinet together. There's already a vendor out there who's done it, and the price is compelling enough.
And there's those of us who
shipping
have done
size.
it themselves too.
Yeah, and there are people who do it themselves and design their own.
Yeah, all those cabinets are, as I mentioned, I made those in the past 4 months for the show. It's of my own design and things.
So we
But I have a
we
CNC
about 5
machine,
minutes
so it
left.
helps.
Yeah, we did a lot of plywood talk.
We talked a lot of plywood.
All right, there have been 2 wood jokes made. There is only one more allowed for the whole room who wants it. Peter, go ahead.
Peter, go ahead.
You. Good.
So
That's
all
not
you
a joke.
That's all you got. It's the best you could do.
That was the best you could do?
I'm disappointed.
You
Peter.
ruined it for all of us.
I'm disappointed, Peter. Go back to your corner and never
All
make
right.
another comment again. Thank
Does
you.
anyone have a question that is
Any
not
more
related to wood?
questions? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller?
Makerspaces. Yes, that's the term. If you want to Google makerspaces, what you will find is basically a subscription-based gym, except instead of going to work out, you just have access to a ton of tools and a
So you
place
can
to
work
build
out
stuff.
that way by hammering.
Yeah. So if you don't want to buy all the tools, just find your local makerspace, join up, and you will all of a sudden have access to anything you could want, and they will probably train you how to use stuff too. Makerspaces are amazing, and I highly recommend them as a source of knowledge and, power, I guess. That's better.
I just want to remind
way to the
everyone that
dark side of the
makerspaces
force.
are run by volunteers. And so you have to expect that you're not getting the quality of service you get at a gym. Equipment is occasionally broken, and you need to be patient because humans like me are all flawed. We don't have enough time to do everything. So, please be patient with these guys. Like you had said earlier, that the machine was broken.
Yep.
It just wasn't behaving right. And sometimes you just have to do that, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Now, the benefit of owning machines is if they're broken,
It's your fault.
well, maybe not. Like my CNC machine is on and off. No, you can just have an excuse to modify it and expand it.
So how big is your CNC router? Just right here.
It's not that big. It's 50 and a quarter inches by 23 and 3/4 inches.
All right,
so
so
just barely
just
enough
the
to-
right size.
Just
Yeah.
barely the right
Yep.
size. Yeah. But when I originally got it from Craigslist, that's where I get all my stuff.
Remember
Yeah.
Craigslist?
Yeah,
Or
they
Facebook
renamed
Marketplace,
it
I
to
guess
Facebook
yeah.
Marketplace.
Well,
I heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, either.
I had to set up all my email alerts
It was
again.
originally 40 inches long, which is just not big enough. But it was fine for most things and most cutting of playfields because the front section you don't really use too much, and the back section you can just drop off anyways. So I made a bunch of playfields that were just a little small. But then it had a couple issues. There was like trapezoidal issues with it, and I said, "Screw it! I'm just going to get a couple more rods," and I extended it out an extra foot. So
Who said that?
who said what?
Of course, Peter did.
Of course it was Peter.
Of course, he did.
I missed it.
All right.
Anybody else?
No.
For anyone looking for a cheap CNC option, just Google the Maslow. The Maslow's an open source format. It is, if you want to just buy one more or less complete, it's about $1,000.
that the one that mounts
Yeah.
on the wall?
Yeah,
That
I
one's
looked
cool
into
to
one of
look at.
those. It,
That one's really cool to watch work. They look really precarious when you're watching them work. It's just a hand router with like a couple of ropes attached to it, and it's
Yeah,
somehow
it is-
making magic.
they're
Like it looks.
Yeah, they guys keep scouring Marketplace and Craigslist. Craigslist is still a thing, believe it or not.
It is.
And you can find them fairly cheap. I've seen some people sell those particular ones or that style for under $600. It was about a year ago, so it's maybe a little bit more now, but you can still find them.
It's also a good source for junk games and junk parts.
That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it still does. Not project games, but just
Oh.
a pile of parts from some guy's basement that doesn't know
Yeah.
what Facebook is. That's a thing.
When are you putting a Hyperloop on Sonic?
Same time I put the blue balls in it.
All right.
Troll question number 3.
Well, I mean, you posted it on Facebook, so somebody has to ask, why won't you put blue balls in Sonic?
Because there is no good source of durable blue pinballs. I have tried many different ways of doing it. You can heat treat it; it will come off. And a lot of you are familiar with glow balls. Those are a good answer, but they only last about 100 plays. And Sonic got 100 plays yesterday, so they're about $60 a set. If y'all want to buy me a new set of pinballs every day for the show at $60 a set, we'll talk about it. And unfortunately, David was unable to locate the few blue prototype Powerballs that Williams made. Those have been lost to time. We tried that too. So,
Well, I'd like to thank you all for being here.
yes, thank you so much.
You can hang out here for the Todd Tucky hour, which it will probably be an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I would suggest getting a bathroom break now. Thanks
does
for
he
being
get
part
to
of
go
probably
over?
the last time I'm going to host the homebrew panel here, because I am not mature enough to not make a blue balls joke right now. So
That was the point.
I just. Yeah, I think that's might be where I belong at this rate. So. I'm going to hand you over to Dave, my
Yeah.
boss, and let him
So
fire me. So let's go.
Question for you people who are thinking of developing: is anyone here far enough along in their homebrew development that they are entered in the American Dream contest that this guy is going to award in a few months?
Hey, Dave, could I just answer like one thing I've been waiting
No,
here for?
nope.
Not if it's about wood.
So-
Session's over.
So just the homebrew, like no matter what plastic insert you need, you can still get it made by either Foremost Plastics or Northern Precision Plastics or somebody else, because I've done 3/4 inch and 1 inch blue inserts that were unobtainable, same as the
Come
1
on
inch
down.
Stern lens. So like anything can be done. So if the lens isn't available, you can still get them to manufacture it.
Foremost Plastic, the famous supplier of pinball since at least the 1940s that I know of. All right, so that's it for now, and Todd Tucky's on in a little while.
Throw back, it's fine.